Guys, with the House voting 230 to 199 to remove Georgia Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene from her committee assignments for things that she said before she was elected, right? Things that she said years ago. I think they're setting a very dangerous political precedent. Now, I want to make it very, very clear in regards to Marjorie Taylor Greene's comments, specifically for YouTube. I don't condone the things that she said. I don't agree with a lot of things that she said. Okay? However, having a strong Christian background, I do believe in forgiveness. I do believe in giving people second chances. And quite honestly, again, for something that she said before she was elected, right? And her voters in her district voted for her to go to office, right? Probably having information about what she said. I do not think it's right for a majority party to try to go against the will of the people that voted for Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? That's almost like them trying to go against democracy, okay? The only people who should have the power to remove her are the people that voted for her, the people that actually sent her there in the first place. Now, who knows whether or not those people were aware of her comments, right? Who knows if those people agree with her comments? Maybe some of them did. However, that's democracy. That's freedom of speech. People have the right to believe what they want to believe. Again, I'm just making it clear here. I don't endorse any type of violence, right? I don't necessarily agree with the things Marjorie Taylor Greene allegedly said in the past. I don't agree with any of that, okay? But at the same time, I think that this is a little bit too far for things that were not said during her term in Congress. She's been punished for something that she did not do during her term in Congress. Okay? And again, this is being done by the majority party against the minority. Again, this type of precedent right here is going to bite the Democrats in the butt, assuming that the Republican Party can get their ish together. I will get more into that later, but I do want to be transparent about who voted for what, just so we have some transparency here. So no Democrats voted against the resolution to expel Greene from House committees. And then you have 11 Republicans who broke ranks to support the measure's adoptions. And that includes Young Kim of California, Mario Diaz-Balart, Carlos Gimenez, and Maria Elvira Salazar of Florida, Adam Kinzinger, who's been adamantly against Trump of Illinois, Fred Upton of Michigan, Christopher H. Smith of New Jersey, Chris Jacobs, John Katko, and Nicole Malliotakis of New York, and Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. So this resolution, which was introduced by Florida Democrat Debbie Wasserman Schultz, right, ironically, who used to run the DNC, you know, when they was having their issues, right, and her having her issues, basically, you know, makes it so Greene will no longer serve on the budget and education and labor committees. However, you know, she still will be able to vote and give speeches on the House floor. Now, Greene, in her speech on the floor, she basically retracted most of her statements. Okay, and that's also a reason why I have a problem with this. She retracted her statements. She said that what she said was wrong. Okay, and again, this is stuff that she said before she got in the office, guys. Right? She retracted it, and then they still moved forward with it anyways. This right here, politically speaking, is something that is, I feel like, going to bite the Democrats in the butt moving forward in the future. What they're saying is that if we're in the majority and we feel like you said something or you did something, no matter when you did it, whether you was a child, whether, you know, you was before Congress, whether you did it on a job, it doesn't matter when you did it. If we don't like it, we have the power to strip you of power and to potentially kick you out of Congress, because that's also been something they've been trying to do as well. Particularly those like AOC, the squad, they've been pushing for that. That's and again, guys, that's a dangerous precedent. It's the exact same thing that we see happening on social media, where we have people that are going after people for things that they said in high school, things they said when they was 11, 12, 13 years old. when they didn't know any better. Now, obviously, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not 12, 13, 14 years old. She's a grown woman. However, at the same time, if you actually listen to what she said and her explanation for why she believed the things she believed, it ultimately comes down to the fact that our political system has been failing us. Marjorie Taylor Greene is an outsider, right? She's somebody that was not involved in politics. She's somebody that was observing the world from a normal person's perspective. And from a normal person's perspective, she saw that our government was failing us, particularly both sides. But instead of addressing that, instead of focusing on that, instead of trying to focus on making people's lives better, okay, and trying to tackle some of the issues that have led to a lot of these outrageous conspiracy theories, instead they want to be spiteful and go after people who believe certain things because of failures from our government. Okay, because that's where a lot of this comes from. Okay, a lot of people believe the things they believe because of the policies that are being bought up due to certain events that happen. Right? It's why I kept trying to warn people, conservative influencers particularly, about going back and forth with AOC about this whole Capitol thing. Right? Stop trying to deny her fears, because you're not going to win. Okay? AOC, if she said she was scared, she said she was scared. Don't go back and forth with her about whether she was actually there. And no, don't. That you're gonna lose. We lose that battle every single time. We lose every time. And quite honestly, I'm tired of the right losing. We're losing because we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. What you have to focus on is that, okay, this happened. We're sorry that it happened. We don't condone violence. Most of us want peace. We want to protect you. But are the policies that you're proposing in response to this incident, are they appropriate? That's where the argument and the debate has to be. Okay? Right? So if you have an issue with the gun control policies that are being proposed due to a certain event, then what you need to do is not focus on the event itself, but focus on the policies that are being proposed. Say, okay, we acknowledge the event happened. This sucks. People's lives were lost. Okay? We completely sympathize with that. However, let's focus on just the policy. Is the policy appropriate? Will the policy actually help prevent another situation like that? Is the policy an infringement on our rights? And that's where the GOP and a lot of conservatives have really missed the mark and have gotten ourselves in this situation where we have to deal with issues like this because we're not focused on the policy. We're focused on everything except the actual policy. But what we're afraid of is the policy. We're afraid of our rights being infringed upon, but instead of focusing on the policy that could potentially infringe on our rights, we're focused on whether the event happened at all. And we will never, ever, ever win that argument. You cannot win that argument. Like I already told you guys, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I entertain them. I've talked about UFOs on my channel. I've talked about the Hunter Biden thing. If it has legs to it, if it passed the sniff test, yeah, I'll run with it. That's why I covered the Hunter Biden thing. Lo and behold, guess what happens? The FBI comes out and says, oh no, Hunter Biden's under investigation, because I knew it passed the sniff test. I was like, okay, this is probably legit. This is a legitimate thing that I should run with. Okay, so it's not like I'm completely against conspiracies. I'm not. But you got to understand that sometimes there are consequences to running with certain things that don't really have real backing behind them. So, I mean, I disagree with what's going on with, them expelling Marjorie Taylor Greene from the committees, because the people voted her in there. Okay? Her people voted her there. The Democrats don't have the right to take away the will of the people. And that's what the Democrats are doing. And I don't like the fact that they're doing that. Now, Nancy Pelosi has come out and basically said, hey, we're not concerned about this precedent. We don't care. And honestly, I can't blame her for not caring because the GOP is in shambles right now. Right? And this is just a symptom of the fact that the GOP is broken. Right? We have two sides. We have one side who's the establishment that's pro-war, that's honestly responsible for a lot of the failures and the policies that have failed Americans, right? Along with the Democrats as well, but they're responsible, right? The old guard, okay? We have those guys who want to get back to that, who want to get back to those days. And then you have the new guard, the populist GOP that I think is more susceptible to some real policies that's going to help people, right? That's more open-minded to certain policies. However, there's a toxic portion of that, right? That is also damaging the party, right? That's making it so we're eating our own in a sense. And something like this, the Democrats should normally be afraid of doing. They should be like, nah, we're not gonna go this far, because in 2022, when the Republicans have power again, which historically should happen, they could use this to turn around and expel AOC for some of the things she said in regards to certain protests on the left, or Ilhan Omar for things that she said about Israel. Okay, they could turn around and use the exact same thing against us. But the reason why she's not concerned about it is because the Democrats have successfully used some of the things that have been hurting the GOP and hurting the right against the right to fracture the right, to make it so, honestly, can the right win? Can the GOP win in 2022? I don't know. Now, the GOP, again, in 2020, did win more House seats, right? When it was predicted to get blown out in the House. They also, have a 50-50 Senate, right? And only because Kamala is vice president that the Democrats have power there. However, moving forward, I don't know if the GOP can win back the House. I just don't know. Right? I don't even know if they can win back the Senate. And the reason why is because we become so fractured when historically speaking. And some of you guys might disagree with me on this, but this is actually true. The GOP, we all know the turnout for the GOP is really about if the Democrats can get turnout in terms of their elections. We all know that the GOP is turning out. The GOP is going to come out, the right, they're going to vote. Okay? We might not like each other, but we're going to go with the Republican candidate, because the GOP, at least for the last 20 years or so, has been like, okay, we're not the Democrats. We're voting against the Democrats. And that's been a successful strategy to a certain extent. But now it's at the point that you have people on the populist right and the establishment right that don't want to deal with each other at all. That strategy may no longer be viable. Plus a whole bunch of people who have no faith in our elections. All that stuff mixed together, guys, is not good, right? It does not spell success for the conservative movement moving forward into the future. And quite honestly, guys, I don't know what to do about it. I don't have a solution to this problem, because I only see the problem getting worse, because the Democrats are successfully exploiting this problem. The establishment Republicans don't want to acknowledge the role that they've played in failing the American people, and why somebody like President Trump was able to actually come to power in the first place. They don't want to acknowledge that. They don't want to deal with that. They want to go back to business as usual. And then you have, again, people on the populist right, that it's hard for a lot of those candidates to get traction because they've been smeared by the media as conspiracy nuts who can't get any legitimacy. I mean, guys, if you look at any of these polls, I know you guys don't believe the polls, but, it is what it is. I like to pay attention to them because I would rather have some data than no data. But none of those people, right, in the GOP, Ted Cruz, Mitch McConnell, Josh Hawley, Mallory Greene Taylor, Lauren Boebert, Max, none of these people, again, according to some of these polls from 538, I get it. I understand you don't like it, are very popular right now. They're just not. Who can win? Right? You might be able to win a district, right? A congressional district. But I honestly don't see a path to the GOP winning a presidency for a long time. I just don't see it. I mean, let's be real. Does anybody believe that Ted Cruz can actually win a national election? I don't. Right? Not because he can't win the nomination on the right. It's because the left hates Ted Cruz so much that can draw people to just come out and be like, no, I just don't want Ted Cruz to be president. Therefore, I'm going to go out and vote against him. Right? Which is what happened during the 2020 general election. Right? And I mean, for a long time, at least before January 6th, I thought Josh Hawley was the guy. Right? I was like, okay, Josh Hawley, he's savvy enough where he understands how to use populist policies and rhetoric in order to get people from the left and the right to come together on issues, right, that are actually good for the American people. But at the same time, he's conservative enough to capture the Republican base. And I thought that he was the guy. I was like, this dude is the guy. He understands. He gets it. He knows what needs to be done. Right? He understands, how to handle big tech. He understands, again, how popular stimulus is. Right? He's not so grounded in the traditional party politics that he can't step outside and understand that, okay, this is where the American people are actually at. But with what happened at the Capitol, that's basically ruined it for him. He's done. Right? Unless there's some type of major turnaround or some miracle happens. The only person right now that I have any faith in that can win a national election for the GOP is probably Ron DeSantis. Right? A red governor from a purple state of Florida. He's the only one I even have any faith in at all. And who knows? I mean, Democrats will probably find a way to smear him in some way. So, I mean, that being said, guys, again, it's just one of those things where just thinking about this it's really hard for me to see a clear path forward for the GOP in terms of bringing this party back together, right? In a way that's cohesive so that they can vote historically like they've been. I mean, again, that's not even counting the migration patterns, guys. And if you're one of those people that want to ignore this type of stuff, to try to act like it doesn't exist, that it's not real, you're in for a rude awakening. Because liberals are moving from California to Arizona. They flip Arizona blue. Liberals are moving from New York to places like Atlanta, Georgia, that flip Georgia blue. Okay? Not just for the presidential election, but also the 2 Senate seats. Flip blue. If that's something that you don't want to pay attention to, if you don't want to acknowledge it, then you're going to forever be surprised when you keep seeing the Democrats win. These are issues that the GOP has to acknowledge, that migration patterns are changing, demographics are changing, things are changing in this country, and the GOP has to adapt now, not later, now. Okay? Because otherwise, you are giving free rein to the Democrats to do whatever they want. However, I do believe that there is room for a new right that does push more populist policies, right? Policies that are actually going to help people, right? Policies that are going to promote traditional conservative American values, right? That's going to make it easier for people to get married. That's going to make it easier for people to own homes. That's going to make it easier for people to raise families. That's going to make it easier for people to get jobs. I do believe there's a new right that will embrace those policies. We've seen it. However, what we can't have anymore is the corporatist right, which is those guys that are being bought and sold by corporations, purely doing those biddings, the McConnells of the world. Okay? And what you also have to acknowledge is that the conspiracy part of the right is also hurting the right. It's hurting. It's not helping. It is hurting. And if you don't acknowledge that again, you have to win over people who don't think like you, people who have different opinions than you, people that have different lifestyles than you. If you don't acknowledge the migration patterns, if you don't acknowledge the demographic changes, if you don't acknowledge that stuff, we're not going to win. We're going to continue to lose. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation right now. And there's no other way I can square it, because that's what's happening. That's what the data is saying. That's what the last election just said. Now, that's still room. There's still room again, because there was more Republicans that won in the House, even when it was projected to get blown out. And also Republicans were able to at least tie up the Senate when it was projected to get blown out in the Senate too. But who knows what's in store for these next 2 years? And the Democrats have been successfully really going after Republicans because they've been able to basically smear everybody in the Republican Party as people that are conspiracy theorists and that promote violence and that are bad people. Okay? And that's something that we can control, that narrative. We have to start controlling that narrative and start reversing that narrative. It can be controlled, but there has to be some hard decisions that are going to be made in the future about what do we want this party to be. Okay? Because if we don't make those hard decisions, the Democrats will win, and they will continue to win for years to come. That's the reality that we're facing right now. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.